I'm not surprised because I've said this. I'm not surprised that the British Empire is not in favor of this and isn't allowing us to use the joint military base. Spain has completely shut off our access to their bases. I'm not surprised because those are the aristocrats of NATO holding on to their dying grasp of the world.
Iran used to be Persia. Iran has a history of conflicts and being a dominant superpower. At one point in time, in ancient times, they were the world's greatest army, right? The war between Israel and Iran, legitimate. Iran poses a legitimate threat towards Israel.
I agree with you in regards to the no wars. I completely do. But at the same time, it's like, how many times do you just ignore the threats? Like death to America, death to Israel, death to this, death to that. Like how many times do you ignore that? And do you let someone keep making those threats? And do you let somebody who's not cooperating with anybody continue to just let them do their thing?
Okay.
The more I read, the more I research, the more I study history, the more you then look at current attitudes and current treatment on how our allies have treated the United States for the last 30 years, it's very obvious that they have no love for us. The only love they have for us is our pocketbook.
Now, Iran and the United States don't have any relationship with regard to oil, but Iran has a relationship with China. And in fact, 90% of Iranian oil production is purchased by China.
What would you do with Iran? Just let it continue to keep being a cancer to the world and a cancer, and most importantly, not a cancer to the world, a cancer to its people that are there suffering under this regime.
Stop, Chris. Okay. So
I've never met someone from Iran that's happy about it.
I think the bigger question is what is the nature of the relationship between Iran and the United States? That's the bigger question. So you said, how long are we going to take what Iran has been doing to their people and stuff like that? That's a false narrative that's been spewed by the administration to justify their action. Making all of these illegitimate reasons as to why they're engaging in a war is a problem because it's disingenuous and they're acting like we're dumb. If you live by a set of values, regardless of who's in power, those values shouldn't shift.
We don't need to prove anything. Because the two biggest, most vile, most nasty wars that have killed more people in the history of the world were started both by Europe. Both.
I would agree with that too.
World War I and World War II were both. At the end of the day, you cannot mess with Judeo-Christian values and you cannot mess with capitalism. Unless you find a system that outperforms that, and we have yet to do what? Because capitalism rewards merit.
The challenge is that there is a enormous concentration of power in the hands of the few. Now, I'm a capitalist, so I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing, because the reason why I ascribe to being a capitalist is because I don't see any better system out there. I agree with you that we should have the privilege to bear arms, but I think that it should be earned, and we need to show consistent proof that we can handle the responsibility of owning a firearm.
So I agree with you 100%. Land background checks, security checks, restrictions, they need to be there. You do, but you absolutely have a right to protect your own right to survive. The right to bear arms, I think, is a global morality that everyone ought to have the ability to protect themselves with the means that other people use, because it's an equalizer. I can't protect myself if my government has a gun, but if I have a gun, I have an equalizer.
Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
Tell me for a second. I was like, oh man, it's great.
Not 2 days in a row.
Just when you thought gas was going to be cheaper.
Well, not here in California.
Well, there are many factors playing out that prevent you from having affordable gas. Well, I don't want to say the word affordable, but reasonably and fairly priced gas in California. Mm-hmm. But now we have another reason, and now of course Newsom will blame that on why gas prices are still so high in California. It's because we're at war with Iran right now. But are we really at war with Iran, or are we just supporting Israel in their war with Iran right now? Because
that is the question of the hour. And just to give some background to the audience, so Chris and I get together every Thursday, and we have conversations about what we're going to talk about Monday, trying to project what's going to be in the media that's current in terms of, the events that are taking place. And we also talk about health and finances. But last week I said, you know what, Chris, I have a funny feeling that something is going to invade what we were planning on talking about, having no idea that this conflict, war, whatever you want to call what's going on between the United States and Iran and Israel would take place. And here we are. And the topic has definitely hijacked our conversation. So, Chris, I didn't mean to jinx everything, man, but what's going on in your head? There's been so much that has happened since the last time that you and I have communicated.
Len, I swear you have like a crystal ball. It's hidden somewhere. Like you see this, you pull this crystal ball out and go, I think something's gonna happen juicy, and then all of a sudden it does.
It's crazy. The craziest thing.
The Trump administration seems to have this schedule where they want to do these surprise attacks on Fridays and Saturdays, I guess. I don't know. Is that when they did it? It was what was it, Friday?
The same thing that happened in Venezuela. It was on a Friday.
Yeah, it was. But, or it was a Friday. Yeah, that's right when it started. It just happened to happen in the wee hours. But it seems like, the news was kind of building up to this. Everyone was talking about it. And Iran is constantly saber rattling. And look, first and foremost, I don't think there's any doubt that while it's maybe a lack of a better word, call it necessary. Everyone knows, that this is necessary. Iran isn't exactly a world team player. They're not exactly doing, what do we see? The protests have been happening since what? We've been talking about or watching protests in Iran since, what was it, November, December when these protests, it's been going on for a while, but
it's definitely been ongoing. Sure.
They shut the electricity off. They shut the internet off. So there's definitely, when you have to do that, but I don't think anybody argues that, or rather, I don't think anybody prior to this got up in the morning and went, I just can't wait to go visit Iran. Nobody wants to go there for any good reason, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody knows it's been a world, it's been I don't want to regurgitate the same language that everybody uses because I think that's just echo chamber stuff, but everybody knows they definitely made it easier to do shady stuff. And not the good shady stuff, right? Like bad shady stuff. Okay. By the way, I feel the same way about Ukraine. I think a lot of shady stuff happens in Ukraine. I think Ukraine is where billionaires and on the up and up governments go to do shady stuff. And Ukraine is just happy about it because they're like, just do stuff here, right? And just make us strong. But it relates to Iran. I have never met anybody in America, anyways, an Iranian from Iran in America that's never liked the current situation in Iran. And you can see that. You turn on the news. It's overwhelming right now in America where you see these massive protests that look like they're going to be anti-Trump protests, but they're not. They're pro-Trump protests, and and obviously it's the Iranian community in America, which, by the way, the one in LA was absolutely crazy. I didn't even realize that there was that large of a population here. But
Glendale's, I think, the largest enclave of Iranians in the country, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. In Glendale, California. Right. Exactly. But when you see the sheer joy of what's happening, that kind of makes it like, okay, these people wanted this. They wanted this to happen. This was wanted to happen by one side. But at the same time, I hate wars and I hate things like that because I think it's just like, but I like how it's kind of maybe being led by Israel. I don't know if you could call that, but they're kind of like they're both doing it, and I do like the fact that Germany's chancellor came out today, I think, in support of it and said, hey, we're going to get behind it. And it looks like Saudi Arabia and a couple other Middle Eastern countries are now going to start returning fire. So it looks like the coalition that Trump was trying to build maybe is trying to build. Maybe it's not. I shouldn't say Trump. I should say Netanyahu and Trump. or maybe Trump and Netanyahu, depending on who you're asking, depending on who thinks who's pulling who. Mm-hmm. But I think the bigger picture is definitely the continuation of stabilizing America's control as the world currency, stabilizing what currency is used to buy and trade oil. And then also I think it's a mineral grab. It's a rare earth mineral grab. Iran has a lot of rare earth minerals. Iran has a lot of natural resources. And I think that this further prevents, BRICS activity from becoming popular. It prevents Chinese subservitude of trying to make the yuan or the world. I think that's what this is. I think this is Trump.
I see what you're doing, Chris.
I see this as Trump.
I'm going to call you out, man.
But the best thing about it, I think, was the fact is look, everybody knows Iran was behind the attempted assassinations of Trump. Everybody knew it was. Everybody could believe that or get behind it. So I think the funniest thing was the meme that Trump put out there and reacted, or he didn't put out there. That was put out there. He just reacts to it, and they said, they asked him on the killing him, and he says, look, he fired twice, I got to him first. So, I mean, yes, that is not to be humorous or anything, while it is kind of funny because that's the world we live in, it's satire. But look, at the end of the day, Iran was a terrorist country. No one can argue that. Bad things happened there. Shady stuff was happening there, and they were very close to, and look how they retaliated. They're shooting drones and missiles at other Middle Eastern countries that aren't attacking them. So, I mean, they attacked the UAE, they're attacking, Saudi Arabia, so Kuwait. So all these things are happening in this area, but I know a lot of people won't be happy about it. And here's the reason why a lot of people won't be happy about it. Because since the 70s, 80s, when this guy got into power, no one's liked it. In the Western world anyways. Mm-hmm. So this has been ongoing for a long time. The problem is that, especially maybe more specifically to Biden and Obama and maybe Clinton, they're just mad they didn't get them. They're just mad.
Oh my!
They're mad that they didn't get them.
Okay, I gotta jump in. Chris.
They're mad. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm like, hey, I don't like wars and everything. I hope it gets done fast. And I mean, it's only a matter of time before they did something to create this. So rather than be reactionary, we were just kind of preemptive in it. Okay. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like.
So when I said I know what you're doing earlier, Chris,
what am I doing?
You are a funny man. You are a funny man. let me tell you why.
Because it goes in line with my overall strategy that I've been talking about. And by the way, hold on. By the way,
I get
one last point. By the way, I'm not surprised because I've said this. I'm not surprised that the British Empire is not in favor of this and isn't allowing us to use the joint military base. Spain has completely shut off our access to their bases. I'm not surprised because those are the aristocrats of NATO holding on to their dying grasp of the world. It's quickly fading from their control.
Okay. So. I would say those are separate points that goes with your whole idea about NATO. We'll push that to the side. I know what you're doing, Chris, and what you're doing because you love Trump is you're fitting a rationale into a bad decision, and you're rationalizing why Trump did what they did, and it's the same thing. And I want to read a couple of tweets that I was taking a look at, which is very interesting how people change their positions. I'm not saying this is you. I'm just trying to identify the hypocrisy. So check this out. So Stephen Miller, back on November 1st of 24, he said,
I'm glad you brought him up, by the way.
Okay, so let me tell you about Stephen Miller. He says, to anyone still gullible enough to fall for the scummy media hoaxes, Trump said, warmongering neocons love sending your kids to die for wars they would never fight themselves. Liz Cheney is Kamala's top advisor. Liz wants to invade the whole Middle East. Kamala equals World War III. Trump equals peace. That's one. Now, Stephen Miller is shouting from the rooftops about why it's so important and weapons of mass destruction and, all of this stuff with the nuclear capabilities, even though back in June, supposedly the administration obliterated their nuclear arsenal. That's another point I'll come back to. Look at what, Tulsi Gabbard, back in January of 2020, no war with Iran. She even made shirts that talked about no war with Iran. And then she goes on and in 2024, as recently as this was October 28th of 2024, she says a vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for Dick Cheney and a vote for war, and war, more war, and more war. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote to end wars, not to start them. We are at a historic crossroads. Our God-given rights are under attack. Now is the time for us to stand together for love of country and for Donald Trump to get us back to the path of peace, freedom, and prosperity. Now, check this out. Nikki Haley just said this back in January of 2028. The U.S. should not engage in regime change in Iran. This is Nikki Haley. Our focus should be only on national security. The Iranian regime has threatened the U.S. with nuclear production for years. We should support Israel in eliminating Netanyahu's and the Natanz and Fordo sites to prevent the threat of an atomic bomb against us. The Iranian people should decide who they want to be their leader. That's their decisions, not ours. Stay focused. So it's just so interesting how everybody, when the different presidents were looking and engaging with Iran, they were completely against it. And now President Trump is doing it and they're completely for it. Now, let me be very clear. I understand that situations change and contexts change, generally speaking, but I'm specifically talking about Iran and the United States involvement in a war with Iran. And you said something earlier in your conversation that's very, very important. You said, I hope that we don't engage in any long-term war with them. But the problem is that Iran is not Iraq, bro. They have 100 million people. They're twice as big as Iraq. Iran used to be Persia. Iran has a history of conflicts and being a dominant superpower. At one point in time, in ancient times, they were the world's greatest army, right? So there is a long history of Iran and what that means. We're not getting in a small conflict with them, bro. And some people even say that World War III has already started. Now, I don't know to what degree I agree with that or not, because I don't have enough information to have an informed opinion about that. So I'll withhold my opinion from that. But I just don't like the hypocrisy that people are using to justify going in and killing a world leader, like a head of state. That's different. So when Osama bin Laden was killed, he wasn't the head of state, right? When you go and you take Maduro, head of state, and then you go and kill the Ayatollah Khomeini, those are like Geneva Convention level, like war crimes bordering on. So I just have a really big problem with where things are going. And the last point I'll make is this. The war between Israel and Iran, legitimate. Iran poses a legitimate threat towards Israel. Completely understand that. So their rationale for going and fighting, I totally get. Their fight isn't our fight. But because we're so connected at the hip with them, and we'll talk about some of the reasons why I think later if the, the flow of the conversation goes forward. But I'll turn it back over to you, Chris, is I just don't like the hypocrisy. Don't tell me that the nuclear arsenal is gone on the one hand, and now we got to go and attack them because we're concerned about their nuclear arsenal. Because Netanyahu, since 1995, has been using the same playbook of saying they're this close to getting a bomb. They're this close to getting a bomb. And you know what? You fooled me once, shame on you. Fooled me twice, shame on me. You fooled me for 30 years with the same rhetoric. Now that's just psychological operations, and you're just trying to jerk me around.
I agree with you in regards to the no wars. I completely do. But at the same time, it's like, how many times do you just ignore the threats? Like death to America, death to Israel, death to this, death to that. Like, how many times do you ignore that? And do you let someone keep making those threats? And do you let somebody who's not cooperating with anybody continue to just let them do their thing? Because I don't like the reactionary stance, I guess. Maybe that's the issue I have. Maybe back when I was younger, I was okay with more of a tit for tat kind of scenario with the and I don't even really think it is tit for tat. I'm actually, you know what? I think it is tit for tat. Now that I think about it more, we're in this conversation, Len, I think it is tit for tat. They just don't like our tat to their tit, I guess. If that sounds right? Tit for tat, right? They don't like our rebuttal, because the reality is this. Look, they dished out a bunch of crap, and they've been dishing out a lot of crap. And yeah, we did go out there and nuke their arsenal, because the reason why I think that is that if they did have it, they would have released it by now, because everyone's about survival. So if they were going to retaliate, why not? Why haven't they retaliated with that yet? Because it is destroyed. I mean, when we did the exercise or whatever you call that back in the summer, it was. Otherwise, they would have retaliated with it. That's kind of maybe my hypothesis on that, because I haven't used it yet. Secondly, they probably did something, or probably moved in a way that we don't see or know, which caused this escalation. But what's nice about it, like I said, is that we're just kind of going after the military defensive stuff. This is what we're told and what it seems like, and Israel is doing the heavy lifting kind of stuff, which is great. Now, what I don't like is I don't want to have any boots on the ground. Now, I know that's my biggest thing is this: we don't need no Americans.
It's already been 6 casualties so far.
Yeah, and I think that's like some of that was like some embassy stuff or something, like or I read or maybe I'm wrong, but some of it was like they stormed an embassy in a different country. I think some of our jets were shot down mistakenly in Kuwait, something like that. But that's going to happen. That's going to happen
from that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's going to happen in a conflict like this. What's scary is that there's going to be a lot of misinformation. I've already been reading it. I'm like, some of the stuff that people are saying, or old stuff. But I think it's going to be over very fast. I think it's going to be over very quickly. It's going to be over very fast. And I don't think you're going to see the power vacuum stuff that normally happens. And I think I just heard earlier today, too, that they were voting to vote someone new in, and they took all those guys out at the same time. So what scares me the most is our allies' positions on this. That's what scares me the most. Our supposed allies and their positions on this. Because everyone would have been in favor of this, Len, if Iran would have nuked the crap out of somebody, or Iran would have bombed somebody, or Iran would have done something crazy. Everyone would have been like, okay, get Iran. But unfortunately, it takes something like that for the rest of these supposed world leaders to react, unless it affects them directly. Then they're all for it. Oh yeah, let's go. But until it directly affects them, and of course they all benefit from it, they would love to see the United States not the reserve currency, especially Great Britain, especially Spain, especially France, especially all these guys. They'd love to see United States not be the reserve currency.
You really believe that?
100%. The more I read, the more I read, the more I research, the more I study history, the more you then look at current attitudes and current treatment on how our allies have treated the United States for the last 30 years. It's very obvious that they have no love for us. The only love they have for us is our pocketbook. They are those friends that are around you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when you're making $2 or $3 million a month, and then all of a sudden when you lose your and you're not making anything and you have no more resources, or it's fun time's gone and it's time to heavy lift. They are worse than fair weather friends. They are fair weather enemies.
Wow.
Is what they are, I think, anyways, because their actions dictate it. Now, Germany did come out today and say, "Hey, we're on the same quote. We're on the same page as U.S." But I think Lenin goes really deep. I think it goes so much deeper than what people really want to look at. I think it goes very, very deep, and I think that this is something that's been brewing since post World War II, and now you're seeing it. But I think it's going to be over very fast. I do. I don't think it's going to drag out. I think we're going to see some pain from it. I mean, obviously, it's funny. I was in Costco earlier today, and as I was walking out, Costco's going, "Get gas while you can. The price is going up daily." I'm going, yeah, I mean, it is. It's going to.
In fact, after we're done, I'm going to go to Costco and
go fill up, baby.
Because your expensives are ridiculously exorbitant prices. I have some points, but go ahead.
Stephen Smith, I want to get to that later because he's been making some. I like him, by the way, and I think he's been making some good jabs.
Stephen Miller? You like that guy?
I'm talking about Stephen Smith.
Oh, okay. I said Stephen Miller.
You said Steve. I'm talking about Stephen Smith. I'm talking about African American guy, sportscaster guy. He just went off ruthless on the opposition.
Stephen A. Smith. Yeah.
Stephen A. Smith. Yeah. He went off hardcore on the ICE subject, which obviously we're not even talking about today because that's cooled down now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead because
I'm going to address some of your points. Okay, I was taking notes while you're talking so I could be respectful and not jump in. So the first thing that you talked about was Iran talking about death to America. Okay, now here's the thing that I think you need to understand. I wish we could have a conversation with Patrick just because, he brings a completely different perspective just because he's from there and he knows a lot about this. But when you talk about them saying death to America, they've been saying that for years and years. And when you have a new ruler in charge, so when all of this stuff happened back in the 1970s, in 1979, when you had, Reza Pahlavi that was, taken out, and then the Ayatollah Khomeini came in and takes back over. And now you go from this place where movie stars would travel, and it's a destination location, beautiful weather during the, spring and summertime. You had lots of, resorts and all of these things. And you had people that were in alignment with the Western way of life. Women, were able to dress openly and freely and all of that. And then when the new regime came, everything changed. Now, when you rule like that, you have to rule by fear. And so when the leadership at the top says death to America, if you say, no, we don't agree with that, we don't believe in that, then you could get killed. You could get imprisoned. You could get tortured. So of course they're going to say these things. Now, am I saying that everybody in Iran absolutely loves America? No, I'm not saying that. But it's one thing to have rhetoric. Like Trump used to call the head of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, Rocket Man. He talked crazy about him. And then they met together. They were the best of friends, buddy, and, shaking hands. So there's a lot of rhetoric that happens. That's not a reason to go into war. And then the other part, when you talked about that, I wanted to say as a counter to that is Iran was actively in negotiations. And so when you're in a situation where they're like, okay, look, we are not going to enrich the uranium. We're going to capitulate to what you're going to say. You can only either agree or disagree. So when they say that, it's like the United States wasn't taking yes for an answer. They already had their preconceived beliefs. Now, I think it's another conversation altogether to wonder if they were and if Iran was negotiating in good faith or not. I think that's a different argument. But the way that they came to the table, Trump didn't get exactly what he wanted, but they weren't moving forward and enriching the uranium. So that's the thing. But the United States, I believe, didn't have any real intentions on invading Iran. But what I'm hearing in what I'm saying, that again, Chris and I are not journalists. We're here giving our opinions. We're business guys just talking. So this is my opinion based on what I've heard, and what I've been hearing from multiple sources is that Israel said, look, we're getting ready to attack Iran. We have great intelligence. The time is right. They're all going to be in the same location. You can join us. This is an open window for you. But regardless if you come or not, we're getting ready to do it. And the United States like, oh, hey, hold on. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll join forces with you to make sure that your mission is successful. And I believe the reason why the United States decided to jump in on that is because what we talked about a few weeks ago was the reason why they invaded Venezuela was to have a stronghold on the oil. Now, Iran and the United States don't have any relationship with regard to oil, but Iran has a relationship with China. And in fact, 90% of Iranian oil production is purchased by China. So now let's bring it all together. You have the United States and you have China that are both in a Cold War, so to speak, as it relates to AI. So any way that the United States can cripple China without having to deal aggressively with them directly, but doing things indirectly, gives the United States a stronghold on this arms race as it relates to AI. And I believe ultimately that the United States is, and Trump in particular, is exerting his power because he understands a couple of things. One, you have the midterm elections that are coming up in November. And if he loses that and the Democrats have an opportunity to take over the House and the Senate, now they can move forward to impeach him. And he's already been tried so many different times and found guilty that could really put him in a real tough position. And if he gets impeached, now he becomes a lame duck president. And now the rest of his opportunity to make an impact on the world gets greatly diminished. So he has every incentive to win these midterm elections. And so I have a few other points that I want to bring up, Chris, but I try to be mindful of the amount of time that I talk. So I want to address some of your other points about Iran, but I'll stop there and give you a chance to react to all of the different things that I've thrown out there.
I don't think that the midterm elections will be like that, but it is entertaining though. I do definitely think I don't think that the Democrats will try to do an impeachment thing again, because even if they did try to do it, they wouldn't even be able to be successful with it. And we all know how many times they failed at that crap and how many resources and time they wasted.
He's only been impeached twice, but okay, I'll give you that.
I mean, Bill Clinton was impeached how many times as well? I mean, for far greater offenses, with proof, by albeit. They just impeached Trump. He was
impeached for his relationship with Monica Lewinsky. That was it, bro. Yeah. Those two don't
what was Trump impeached for again? I don't even remember what they attempted to impeach. Russia? Oh, that was wrong. That was wrong. That was false. What was he impeached for?
The second impeachment was for the whole.
What was the first one? What was the first one for?
Okay, Trump impeachment.
Oh, I remember. It was quid pro quo. It was that whole quid pro quo lie with Zelensky.
With Zelensky.
Right. Oh my God, Len, come on.
Well, I'm not saying. Here's the point.
That's like saying Governor Newsom. That's like saying Tim Walz.
Okay, hold on. No. Don't do that. That you're making in a minor point that I wasn't even saying that as like a main talking point. Bro.
But here's the thing. Okay, fine, I get you. But it would be a very Democrat Party thing to do, to go, let's try to impeach him again. It'd be so funny. The reality is this. Bill Clinton just won the midterms for Trump. You know why? The biggest issue. No. Hold on. You want to know why? Do you know why? The biggest issue that his base has had is the Epstein files. Yes. He releases him, fine. No holds barred. It's all coming out. There's nothing to see here. And then Bill Clinton is testifying, and during that testifying, he says, Trump had nothing and knows nothing about what was going on, and we've talked about it. You have Bill Clinton exonerating Trump from the Epstein files. So the midterms are going to be a bloodbath for the Democrats. Secondly, when CNN called their potentials a clown show card. CNN called them a clown show card, which is funny. I think that CNN is trying to save their you-know-what because they know they're getting bought by Paramount, and that means that Ellison loves Trump. That means CNN and Barry Weiss is there, so that means CNN is dead and CBS is dead. They're all dead. Trump is unilaterally dismantling every single one of his enemies. And the thing, again, that makes it so irritating for his opponents, especially Obama, like Biden can't even think for himself anymore. Especially
man,
Biden.
You are majoring in all of these minors, man. We're talking about a war in Trump, man. Like, just stick there.
Well, you brought it up. All right, you brought it up. Yeah, but here's what I'm saying.
15 other points.
Look, here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. Right. Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. Trump is going to clean up in the midterms. I don't think anything else is going to happen in that regard. J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio will be the next president. Grok already predicted it. They're gonna parade Kamala out there in a primary with Gavin, and it's gonna be an absolute disaster. But first and foremost, the war with Iran. This war is purely because there's a lot of reasons for it, but you can only talk crap so long before you get punched in the face, and they're getting punched in the face right now. And you can only do Iran's government, not Iran, but that administration. Okay. Secondly, and before anything, to end all be all, and I'll throw it back over to you, no one likes the way the country's become with the new leadership. And how did the new leadership get into power? How did they get into power?
It was a coup. I mean, yeah.
It was a coup, right? Okay, so the guy that got in via coup, who took the country from great to abysmal, we should go in there and protect them and get them out anyways? Because again, the position has been that no one wants to touch this guy. Just leave him in Iran. Let him do whatever he wants. Let him murder people, kill people, commit slavery, commit acts against people, genocide, terrorism, all the nasty things. Just let him keep doing it. Just let him until it hurts somebody. And then once it hurts somebody, then we'll go in and police it. Those days are over, and that's what Trump's showing everybody. Trump is showing everybody that the days of thinking you can act however you want to act and just talk crap, they're over. And no one can question him now. No one can. And what irritates all these big leaders is they all know is that when he's in a room, whether you're an ally or an enemy, he is the biggest alpha. And they're all mad about it. They're mad.
Okay, but all of those points may be true.
Because Len, how would you do it? How would you do it? What would you do with Iran? Just let it continue to keep being a cancer to the world and a cancer, and most importantly, not a cancer to the world, Len, a cancer to its people that are there suffering under this regime.
Stop, Chris. Okay. So
I've never met someone from Iran that's happy about it.
Let me address that point specifically, then I'll answer your overall big question. Because I think the bigger question is what is the nature of the relationship between Iran and the United States? That's the bigger question. So I'm going to come to that second. The first part you talked about was, what should we do? Just let him do whatever to his people? Bro, that's a scapegoat, because in that case, then why wouldn't we go and attack Israel for the genocide they're issuing in Gaza?
That's not a genocide.
Bro,
that's not genocide.
Yes, it is.
It's not a genocide. They're both committing genocide in each other.
No,
they're both. They've been creating.
Chris, bro.
They both have been murdering each other. Like, there's no genocide happening there. That's a war,
dude.
So is it genocide? So is it genocide in China right now? What's happening with the Euro guys or whatever?
That's totally different, bro.
See, how is it different?
Okay.
Is it genocide in Ukraine right now with Ukrainians getting killed and Russians getting killed because they're worse still?
Chris, there's a difference between war and genocide. Now, if you go to just
the Palestinians and Israel were in active conflict.
Dude, there's a difference between war and genocide. Let me break it down. Okay. A war is when you have two opposing forces that are that are and I'm talking like a kinetic military hot war where, they're actively shooting each other, right? So you have men in combat on both sides that are actively trying to exert their power on the other side. Okay, that's one thing. A genocide is when you go and you indiscriminately kill men, women, and children for no specific reason, and you do it on purpose. That is what's happening in Israel. That's what's happening in Gaza. So let's take that point. That's an issue that I have. But the bigger point, the question that you talked about
and by
is,
the way, all of us have issues with that. All of us have issues with that.
Of course. And I'm not suggesting for 1 second that you don't. So
no. I know that. I know that.
Okay, so
my point to that is that they
things.
purposely do.
Okay, here's the thing. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Oh man. So here's the thing. So you said, how long are we going to take what Iran has been doing to their people and stuff like that? That's a false narrative that's been spewed by the administration to justify their actions, because they've been saying death to America since the 1980s. Like, that's not a new thing. They've been doing what they're doing to their population since the 1980s. There's many countries around the world that don't do right by their people because of the leadership they exert on their people. We just pick and choose which ones we want to have an issue with. So that leads to my bigger issue. What is the challenge that Iran poses to the United States? Well, before June, allegedly, it was the potential for nuclear weaponry, because we've always believed that Iran was a clear, legitimate, existential threat if armed with nuclear weapons, because one, they say death to America, and they also want, they want Israel to cease to exist because they don't believe that they have a right to exist. Okay. So from that standpoint, then that's the reason why different administrations would interact and negotiate with Iran. So, and that's the reason why Trump went and had their bunkers blasted and their nuclear weaponry obliterated was their words, back in June. So since that threat no longer exists, there's no issue that the United States should actively have with Iran. So making all of these illegitimate reasons as to why they're engaging in a war is a problem, because it's disingenuous and they're acting like we're dumb. And the problem is I don't want somebody like you, Chris, who has a strong mind and who can think for himself, to fall victim to people changing what they say from 1 minute to another. That's why I started off our conversation by what Nikki Haley said before and after, what Tulsi Gabbard said before and after, and what Stephen Miller said before and after. They can't just change their narrative to just based on who's the actor. If you live by a set of values, regardless of who's in power, those values shouldn't shift. And that's what I see that's happening in the administration. And it sickens me, because leadership is supposed to be that for, who says what they mean what they say, and they make decisions that's for the best benefit of their own country. I'll make one more point, because earlier you talked about the allies, you talked about France, and you talked about Germany. And here's the thing that I really remember you saying, and it stuck with me. And you said this, look, and I'm paraphrasing, essentially, like for me, I'm more of an idealist. I would kind of say I lean on like the moral virtues of what government is supposed to be. I like the fact, like I lean more on the democratic ideals of what the United States should be. And you're very more like, hey, we're capitalist. War is nasty. It sucks. people die in wars, and that's what happens. And power is what happens. So when you and I disagreed on Venezuela, and you're like, look, Venezuela has United States oil, has oil. United States has more power. They can exert their power. And because they can exert their power, it might not be right, but they can do it. And so we fundamentally have different perspectives in terms of our worldview. So in this case, when you talk about, the allies are just operating based on their point of view. So the United States supposedly is an ally to the European nations. So when you're an ally and you decide to go into a war or conflict, whatever you want to call it, if you're an ally to another nation, you should at least get their input on how they feel about it, if it's going to directly or indirectly impact them. And I'll make this last statement. I'll turn it over to you. The reason why the United States should have a conversation with Europe is because a lot of those European nations, they rely on oil from Russia and they rely on oil from Iran. And you've got that whole Strait of Hormuz. If the Strait of Hormuz gets shut down for a long period of time, you can forget it, because we're going into a recession, because 1 in every 5 people on the planet rely on oil that comes through the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of global production goes right through that strait that Iran can shut down. So I'll turn it back over to you specifically, just bring it home on the idea of the allies and then the Iran and the United States, because we don't have any real reason to be in this war with them other than the fact that we're here to support Israel, my opinion.
They used to be able to shut down the strait. Now they can't. That's a good thing. Now nobody has to wake up in a cold sweat and go, oh my God, is Iran going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz today? So that's done and over with. Not only is the leader gone, but his leaders are gone. So now all you guys who've been trying to clean up that area of your world for all these years, congratulations. Israel, with the help of America.
I thought it was closed down yesterday.
That shit's going to get opened. If it was closed, who cares? You don't think we're going to go through there and open that up? Iran can't control anything anymore. They can't even control their own. What? How is this even? How are you even? How this is like?
Bro, you are so underestimating Iran, bro. You are totally underestimating Iran. You need to study their history, bro. They're way stronger than you're giving them credit for. You're acting like they're like Iraq. They're not Iraq, bro. They're not Afghanistan. This is very, very different, Chris. Very different. But go
That's
ahead.
what everybody said about Venezuela. Look at that thing. That thing is humming along.
And Iran are not the same. No,
That's
sir.
That's the point, though. But see, that's the point.
They're not the same.
Here's the thing that's consistently always misjudged and miscalculated, okay? You have the fact that, first and foremost, I don't want to get started on the Palestinian-Israel thing, because that in itself is a whole other topic of conversation.
You're absolutely right.
And I don't want to get into that and even throw out a rebuttal to that. But what I will say is this. Number one, the allies, okay? Germany's on our side. And that's really the one that matters, because everyone else's economy in the European Union sucks. And we all know it. They all know it.
There are allies, Chris. See, that's the thing.
I get it. But here's the problem. Our allies only want us to do what they want us to do when their butt is in trouble. And that's
Wouldn't America do the same thing?
But exactly. So, and we're doing it because Israel came to us and said, hey, this guy keeps chanting death to America. We have reasonable cause that they're going to attack. We know they're a threat. We know you don't like them. We know what they're trying to do by circumventing the world economy with the reserve currency. We know what they're trying to do. Hey, you want to come in and help us take them out? America went, yeah, let's go make sure, which I'm sure America gave advance notice to all the European Union. Of course we did. We always do. We're a good ally. We line their pocketbook, and then we come in to the rescue whenever they're needed. And by the way, we don't need to prove that. We've done it time and time again.
I just think we're not as good of an ally as we have been with the Europeans.
But the pot, and guess what? The pot is both ways. Because here's the thing. The receipts that everyone likes to talk about, how America's not a good ally, you know what those receipts that they bring to the table are? They don't like our morals and how we conduct our business. The receipts that we can bring to the table are very pragmatic. The receipts are, y'all don't pay your bills.
Okay.
That's the receipts we bring to the table.
That's a legitimate
and then
argument.
we also bring to the crying babiness of it. And then we don't need to prove anything, because the two biggest, most vile, most nasty wars that have killed more people in the history of the world were started both by Europe. Both.
I would agree with that too.
World War I and World War II were both. And guess what? America didn't want anything to do with it, Len. You know this. But we came in and we shut that crap down for everybody's behalf. Well, guess what? When Iran starts World War III, 2 years from now, 4 years from now, 6 months from now, whenever it was, America would have had to do what? Please come help us. Please. We just decided to say, you know what, guys? We don't want to take the call 2 years from now. We're going to do it now so that we don't have to take the call 2 years from now. And bonus, we'll stop China from trying to circumvent the United States as the world currency, which we already did with Venezuela. And we're doing it again with Iran. And we're pretty much gift wrapping peace to the European Union, saying, okay, guys, guess what? We took out the biggest threat to peace in the Middle East and the European areas. Can you guys go manage this stuff now? Except don't let the UK do it, because let's not forget that Great Britain has a history of imperializing the entire world. See, everyone likes to forget that the sun never used to set on the British Empire because it was everywhere in the world. We just like to talk about how America does these nasty things. I'm sorry, I'm going to stand up for my country. My country, our country, went out there and did what the rest of the world is too lazy, too inept, or too financially responsible to want to do, or they just don't want to get their hands dirty. But Americans, we got our hands dirty, and they don't like that. You see Macron, he parades around like he's like this prince or something, like he's like some Hollywood guy, like he's on a movie or something. These guys are a joke. They're a joke. And thank God we have a German chancellor that has a brain for a brain instead of a butt for a brain. I'm trying to calm down on my vernacular a bit. But they just don't like the way we do things. They don't. They just don't. And our allies, I'd love to see them do something then about it. Instead of, see, our allies, Len, they're too reactionary. They're just going to wait until the proverbial poop hits the fan. And then they're going to go, America, please come and help us.
But there's
those days are those days are done. What's the reason? They're financially broke. And then last point. This is, to me, Len, this is the most craziest thing, because you're saying, Len, Chris, you're smart. I don't want you to get duped, right? By this. Len, I don't want you to buy product from a terrorist or drug dealer, but you're encouraging the European Union and all these people to buy oil from Russia and buy oil from Iran, when what they should be doing is they should be buying oil from us or Canada, or guess what? Bing, bing, Venezuela, baby. Because now we just opened up that supply chain, or even better, drill your own freaking oil off the freaking sea somewhere like we do and pollute your own. Or I know, better yet, why don't you stop pillaging from all the African countries and start helping them develop resources instead of pillaging from them that you've been doing since the British Empire imperialized it. See, those are the things that I have an issue with, because we constantly want to call out America, but America's the only one doing anything, because everyone else is just, well, we're just going to sit down and wait for it to get worse. We're just going to sit down and wait for Iran to launch a bomb. I know, better yet, and I'll wrap it up. Because at the end of the day, I don't think anybody would, if given a choice, I don't think anybody wouldn't raise their hand and beg to take the morality of the United States governing the world versus the morality of any other country in the world. I guarantee it. And guess what? We've earned that time and time again. We've earned it by propping everybody up and solving everybody's problems. And now I'm not saying that we're all good intentions. We have a lot of bad crap we've done. We are not innocents. We're not saints, right? But that stuff that we've had to get involved in, I'm sorry. If we don't go in there, guess what? You're going to have to deal with the morality of Xi Jinping running the world, or the or the UK, something like that. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. And nobody wants Xi Jinping's morality, the CCP's morality. No one wants communism to be the ruling morality of the world, because more people have died under communism than anything combined, done by people. And see, that's the problem. The people that run these governments, Len, think they're aristocrats, and they want to hold on to that power. So, yeah, It should be done. It needed to be done. Is it convenient? No. And I think war is fought very differently. And yes, all of us have a right to have PTSD with the Middle Eastern wars, albeit first started by Bush Sr. Granted, he did a lot of good with it. Continue with Clinton, continue with Obama, continue with Bush Sr., and continue with Obama under airstrikes. Trump's just trying to close the chapter, fine, once and for all. And the last chapter that needs to be closed, the only person committing all this crap in the Middle East is what? Ding, 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 ding. Iran. Iran's so mad it's shooting its own neighbors. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, the Emiratis. I mean, even Saudi Arabia. So the oil stuff, you're encouraging these countries that are supposedly our allies to buy from the known terrorists that we have sanctions on, instead of saying, hey, US, can we get some oil, baby? Yeah, we have no problem. In fact, why don't we build ships together and why don't we build a transatlantic pipeline and pipe resources back and forth to the Western countries? Instead, our Western neighbors just want to complain. Sorry, Len, I'm going on a rant. It's back to you.
So there's a lot to unpack. Okay, but here's the thing, and I won't take too long. All right, so the thing that's so important to understand is that every country will act in its own best interest. And the United States, Iran, Germany, France, England, Venezuela, Israel, no different. Every country acts in their own interest. However, in the process, you have to understand that no one country has the power or the might to unilaterally act on their own interest. And I believe that the strategic mishap that history will tell about what's going on right now is that the United States it's one of two things. It either believes that it has the military might to exert its will on anybody at any time, and that would tell why the United States doesn't treat our allies like allies. Or that the United States is concerned about its waning world domination, and they're doing everything they can to buy time for AI to bail us out. Because right now, you can't tell me that the United States is acting in a way that's long-term thinking from the standpoint of the deficit spending that we're doing right now and taking away from our children and our grandchildren, because all of these deficits, we're creating and producing just to pay down the interest on the debt. We're just servicing the debt. So one of two things are happening. Either the United States believe that we're so big and bad that we don't have to listen to anybody, or we believe that it's just a matter of time before China becomes the world dominating power. And so when you act like that right now, there's this term called a gambit, where it's like, I'm all in. We're either going to win this bet and we are going to prosper enormously, or we're going to lose this bet and we're going to burn out in flames. And I have no idea. It's probably going to be somewhere in between. But I say this, that as a country, we need to understand that we're really at a crossroads in this global game, and we've got to understand where we stand, because the reality is that if our allies do anything to sabotage the United States, it's not in their best interest. And that's why I started off this argument by saying that everybody operates in their own interest. If France and Great Britain decided, hey, we want the United States not to be the dominant power, they're not going to be the ones. They don't have the arsenal, and they don't have the technology. See, right now, We're in a completely different economy than we were when we went from the agrarian age to the industrial revolution. Right now, we are in, what some people would call a techno feudalism, right? And where you have the barons that rule Meta and X and, so on and so forth, the Palantirs and Anthropics and so on and so forth. They're the ones who have the real power, and we're the serfs where we're, mindlessly on these all day, and they're psychologically controlling us. Now, all of that is connected to what's going on right now. I'm going to make the connection here. Okay. So the thing that Europe needs to know, and I believe they know this, is that they have no dog in the technological fight, and that is going to ultimately bring them down. It's the United States and it's China. So all of the allies of the United States have a vested interest in the United States being in alignment with the United States, because, they say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So based on what you're suggesting, and maybe I'm misinterpreting what you're suggesting, so if I am, please correct me. What I'm hearing you say, Chris, is that France and Great Britain and some other people, the European countries in NATO, would like nothing more than to see the United States not being at the tippy top of the world order. And what I'm saying to you is that it is not in their best interest to not want the United States to be up there, because if they're not, if the United States topples, China is next in line. They're already there. Why? They have the manufacturing, they have the technological infrastructure, and they have the ability, and they have the number of people, they have the military might. Because here's what's happening. As the United States, every single bomb they drop, guess what? The arsenal is going down and down and down. And all China has to do is say, you know what? I'm just going to wait. We're going to wait this thing out. We're going to keep building and building and building. And when the time is right, we're going to not have to use our weaponry, but we'll use it as leverage. Because why? What Macron recently said is that something to the effect that, you know what? The only way to have respect is for people to fear you. And the only way for people to fear you is to be able to have the military might that makes people respect you. Those weren't his exact words, but that was the sentiment. So what the United States has going for it is that nobody wants to fight with us, because we have the world's best military by far. But China is in second place. And as we keep going and fighting wars with Venezuela, we fight wars with Iran, and we're in Afghanistan, and we're in this country and that country, our arsenal is depleting. And as China continues to wait for that opportunity, I believe this is what will happen. And I'll turn it back over to you. China said that they're going to have Taiwan by 2027. I believe there's an opportunity that might happen, but most people right now are thinking that will happen because they have to go in and take them by force. Well, just so you know, right now, you look at the United States, they're trying to, exert their muscular dominance on the world. And China is being diplomatic, but they're gaining strength. And I believe that there's a world in which Taiwan willingly says, you know what? We'll join forces with you, China, because you're the new big dogs, and you didn't have to drop one bomb, one missile, but it just is in our best interest to align with you as opposed to the United States. You know our culture, you know our values, and they're more aligned, and you're stronger now. We have the chips and you have the technology. Let's go ahead and do this dance with each other. Some of my thoughts. What say you?
Was it in our best interests? And was it a selfish or selfless act for us to get involved in World War I and World War II?
It was absolutely in our best interest to get involved in both of them.
I don't think so. We didn't start it. We had nothing to do with it.
Case. That is true. That is correct.
We had nothing to do with it. We didn't start it. And if we wouldn't have gotten involved, all of our allies would be speaking German right now.
That is correct. But you know what?
Change anything.
But what did we get out of the war, Chris? That's the thing.
Well, yeah, we did. We did.
We became the world's superpower after the war.
Right. And my point to that, though, is that to the argument of we only get involved. Countries get involved when it's for them, right? They're going to do what's always in their best interest.
That is fact.
America didn't do that for our own best interest. We did it twice. Maybe the second time. Chris? How so? We didn't get involved in World War I because it was out of our best interest. We got dragged, and World War II, we got dragged forcibly into it because we were preemptively attacked. We had no choice.
Okay.
See,
yeah.
So America has always been selfless. America has always done things to help other countries. What gets angry? What gets the ire of all these
against your worldview, Chris?
And what goes against the ire? What happens is the ire of these countries when we do things for ourselves. But I don't want to get back into that. But what I do think is that China does not concern me at all. I think China is this is what I think China is. I think China looks good from the outside, but on the inside, it's atherosclerotic, if I'm saying the word right. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay, yeah.
I think China I think China is that bodybuilder, looks great and looks awesome on the outside, but inside they're full of cortisol, visceral fat, and their arteries are completely plaqued and hardened. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. I hear what you're saying. I disagree with
China,
you.
But your perspective is great. Your perspective is 100% great. I think your perspective is very key, and I think it's very potent and carries a lot of weight. But what I don't think people understand is that number one, America has so much ordnance and so much munition that we could dump it all on Iran right now and still have a whole entire stockpile. And to count America as, if we ran out, we wouldn't be able to build anything. We proved that we invented that strategy. The strategy that China thinks they use right now, which is, we just produce a lot. We invented that strategy. It's what won World War II against Germany, because the Third Reich looked at America and went, we'll just have better equipment and we'll technologically outmuster them. And America's attitude was, who invented the throwaway culture of the world? America has. Because the Notorious B.I.G. even made a rap song about it. Throw it in the gutter, I'll go buy another. That is America. So the fact that you think you can outproduce America in military might, don't even think of it. Because what most people don't realize is that there's an economy and an operating system that America has that everyone's allowed to see. And then over here is the operating system and the economy that none of the world is allowed to see. And it might be maybe some conspiracy stuff or some National Treasure. Those are great movies. Remember that when Hollywood used to make great movies? National Treasure stuff, maybe some Masonic stuff out there. But I do believe that America is so secretive, just like Lady Liberty. The French got that right when they made Lady Liberty for us. Because Lady Liberty only shows you her arms and her ankles a little bit and her face. That's all you're ever allowed to see of America and what we're really capable of. America is the proverbial iceberg straight ahead for the RMS Titanic. They just seen the teeny little piece on top, but what was underneath? You just don't see it. And we'll never show it. We'll never show it. We are so good and so freaking prepared for this stuff. Because at the end of the day, what always gets people, what always will get China, the European Union, our allies, even Japan, is that America is based on Judeo-Christian capitalistic values. And when the rubber meets the road, you can't beat that. And I'll wrap it back up and throw it to you, because here's what's getting ready to happen. Everyone always likes to say China's dominance, right? They have manufacturing dominance, right? Their dominance in manufacturing, okay? No one can compete with them. China cannot manufacture. That's always what everyone says. But the reality behind this is that all of that is getting ready to become obsolete. Watch what happens when manufacturing. When we said we're getting ready, when we went from agrarian to industrialization, right? And now we're going from industrialization to whatever it is, with technocracy, whatever you want to call it, a mix of technocracy, meritocracy, whatever.
Techno-feudalism. Yeah.
Techno-feudalism.
Okay.
What we're getting ready to do with the business leaders and the minds like Elon Musk that we have in this country, we're getting ready to make manufacturing as we know it completely irrelevant and obsolete. And that's what people don't see and people don't know with the advent of AI. Watch what happens when we look at, because China makes their manufacturing, which by the way is brilliant for the current world, like in sections, right? So like car parts get manufactured in this area of the country. You get what I'm saying? I think you sent me even a video about that, or I watched something on that. That is all going to become obsolete. It's good. It's going to become watch when we build manufacturing warehouses that are going to get deployed in space and go between low Earth orbit and Earth orbit. Watch when that happens. It's getting ready to happen. It's happening right now. Manufacturing as we know it will cease to exist. And China's going to wake up and they're going to blink and they're going to try to turn them on a dime. And what's going to get them? Declining birth rates and the ability to have a workforce. Even in the advent of robotics and AIs and humanoids, watch what happens. They're going to go like this. Because at the end of the day, you cannot mess with Judeo-Christian values and you cannot mess with capitalism unless you find a system that outperforms that. And we have yet to do what? Because capitalism rewards merit. And the people that run the rest of the world, Len, and you know it, the dictators of China, the dictators of the aristocrats of the European Union, the terrorist dictators of Middle Eastern countries like Iran, not saying they are all like that, especially like UAE, Saudi Arabia, maybe, the princes, all these guys in the rest of the world, guess what? They're all in love with themselves. And they can't get around the fact to give power to the people. America gives power to its people. And that's something they will never, ever, 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 ever understand. So all these other world leaders and princes and queens and princes and whatever the heck they are doing, playing prince of the old world, they're going to blink and go, oh, America did it again. Yeah, we're only 250 years old, and there's a reason why we're so far ahead of everybody. Think about that, right? I mean, really, seriously, think about that. How is a 250-year-old country able to do what all these countries have been trying to do for thousands of years? And they always are, they're just, yeah, they may pass us a few times here and there, certain things, but they're always playing catch up. You never actually will ever really know the prowess of America. You'll never know it. We never ever show it. Even during World War I and World War II, we never showed the true prowess of American might. We showed a little bit of it just now when we swooped in and I don't even want to say hostile takeover. We swooped in and helped and liberated Venezuela, right? Just like we're doing right now. Nobody would argue that life in Iran was better now better today than it was before this guy couped his way into power. So it's just like, oh, it's okay. He got power violently. Just let him have it. Let him keep it. Yay! The reason why America didn't do anything is why? Because we're in America. But guess who didn't do anything about it? All the countries that live next door to them. Funny how that works.
Well, yeah, because Iran was just stronger. I mean, it's very okay. It's funny. You're a very interesting conundrum, Chris. This is why I say that because
conundrum.
Because like on the one hand, you're very logical and very it's binary. Like if you're stronger, then hey, we exert our will on other people, and that's just what it is. But then on the other hand, you're like super romantic when it comes to America, like and the values and all of this stuff. Look, there is a difference between operating out of a Christian worldview than it is operating out of a democratic worldview, than it is operating out of a capitalistic worldview. Those are three different worldviews. Now, America has adopted aspects of each of those worldviews, but I would say the number one of those worldviews, what would you say it is? Capitalism. It's capitalism, right? And with capitalism, the challenge is that there is a enormous concentration of power in the hands of the few. Now, I'm a capitalist, so I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing, because the reason why I ascribe to being a capitalist is because I don't see any better system out there. But to say I'm a capitalist is not forsaking the fact that there could be a better system. Like, I wish that there was a nice mixture where you had a slightly smaller concentration of power at the top, where the ones that are at the least of these, the ones that are the most difficult, there was a sufficient safety net. And then there was a very thriving middle class, because capitalism is the only system that I have seen thus far that creates a check and balance for human nature. And this is what it is. If me and you want to maximize profits and we want to maximize our ability to gain wealth, and we're creating the same product, well, if you produce a great quality product at a great price, and if I produce a quality product and a slightly better price, then I'm going to take market share from you. So therefore, if we're both trying to gouge people and you can come down a little bit less than me and charge a fair price for the same quality, then you have a vested interest, because otherwise we're going to both exploit everybody. So because we're in competition with each other, even though we have a self-interest, the greater self-interest is to maximize profit. So that's the reason why competition drives the best outcomes for the masses of people to benefit from. Because, like, let's be practical. If, ExxonMobil charged $18 a gallon and Shell charged $8 a gallon, ExxonMobil's out of business, right? So even though if they could both get away with it, they absolutely would. So capitalism is great for that. So now we talk about a democracy. Okay. Well, we're really a republic. But we're more capitalist than we are a democratic republican. And we're more capitalist than we are Christian, right? Let's just keep it a buck, because Christian worldview is you do unto the least of these, you do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's not our core value. That's not our core value. Our core value as a country, and again, I'm not speaking for everybody individualistically. I'm speaking as a whole. Our core value is we want to maximize profits. We want to have the greatest opportunity to have financial gain. And we want the greatest opportunity to be able to go after that by our gifts, our talents, our skills, and our efforts, and all of that to add value to the marketplace. So as a country, we are going to operate from those core values. And at the end of the day, this war ultimately always, to me, will come down to what's the most core of the core value. So if you've got Christianity, capitalism, and democracy, the most core value, I'm not going to flip my finger, the most significant core value is capitalism. So if you follow the money, Chris, if you go to every war that we've ever been a part of, follow the money. And so I'll wrap it up with going back to your initial point. You talked about us being virtuous and getting into World War I and World War II. Okay, well, we're bombed at Pearl Harbor, so of course we're going to be dragged into the war against Japan because we have a right to defend ourselves. We didn't start that war, but we finished it. Okay, I understand that. But at the end of World War II, and then with with Hitler, having an opportunity to take over the world, we didn't want to speak German here either. So we saw that if he's going to Russia and to Italy and he's just taking over and over, we saw that ultimately if that guy's left unchecked, he's going to find a way to come across those waters and come get us. And so we were like, no, we're not going to do that. But my biggest point in all of that was that when all the dust settled, you had the Bretton Woods Agreement that took place in 1945, right after the World War. And we had all the gold and we had the military might. And that's when we had that hockey stick of growth. So to suggest that we did it for altruistic matters, that's not entirely That's not entirely true. We had a vested interest in getting into those wars. And by getting into those wars, it shifted us to become the big bad dogs on the country, on the world scene. And we're experiencing the spoils of that by having the world's reserve currency. And that's the only reason why we're able to be the big bad dogs right now.
I think what you saw is you saw a post-World War II world, and what you saw was the best strategy won, and the best strategy was capitalism. Everybody got a chance to put all of their strategies on the table. I mean, look, everybody got a chance to test, colonialism. Everybody got a chance to test socialism. Everybody got a chance to test communism. Everybody got a chance to get monarchies. Everybody got a chance to test all these things. So America said, hey, we're going to test out this thing called capitalism. You can't get mad at the fact that capitalism, that system allowed America to have the hockey stick. Because when you plugged in all the ingredients that you did, capitalism afforded all of those ingredients to flourish the way they did. Just like if you put Miracle Grow fertilizer in your plant, it's going to go whoosh, and it's going to flourish, right? Versus, a regular soil. So regular soil is communism and our aristocracies, whereas, Miracle Grow is a pot with capitalism in it for soil. And that's really what I think you saw, just to explain it that way. But I remember we in high school for literature class, they made us read the Book of War. I don't know if you ever read it or not, but I hated it. Number one, I didn't like to read when I was in school, but number two, I hated it. I didn't want to read it. I hated it, but I read it. And when I used to come home all the time, my dad used to watch the black and white war movies, World War I, whatever those were, right? So I don't like it. It's not. So I'm not happy about the fact that it's happening right now, but I understand. I understand why it is happening, and I just think that there's a good reason ultimately for it, other than just, hey, we want to take their oil. I think it's just bigger than that. I think it's just so simple for everyone to say, yeah. And it's a good point, Len. That's a solid point where you're like, we're capitalist verse, because I can see that. Like, it's hard to argue that. But I don't think that we're going in there because, and maybe we do, I don't know. But I don't think we're going in there for resources. I think ultimately we're going in there because nobody wants to get the phone call after something bad happens. And I think we're just going there to prevent that phone call from happening. But also at the same time, the Iranians in America, American Iranian, however it's labeled, pardon me, I don't know how to label it, but American Iranians, people who are of Iranian descent that are in America, by and large, what I could see, are happy about this. They like it. They're excited about it. And I think a lot of people are going to be excited about it. Now, whether or not Iran can return to its former glory, and I know a lot of people hate to say this, but as a westernized country, I know there are a lot of people, some even in America, that don't like to say westernized. For some reason, that's evil, as if it did something wrong. Like, as if all the other parts of the world didn't do something evil or anything less evil than the westernized world. Like AOC likes, I think the problem with the westernized world, she went to this. That's the thing with all these failing, two-faced politicians in America, like Newsom and AOC. They go to these European conferences and sound really smart when they get on stage, like, I'm so smart, ultra realistic. When in reality, their jurisdictions, I don't know, Newsom's $250 billion in fraud, and AOC's complete, utter disgrace, disaster. But yet they're speaking on these European stages as if they have all the answers, when in reality, they don't. They're just get sympathy and empathy from these European leaders who still think that America's just going to sit there and go, here you go, just suck some more off of me here. Like, Europe is just a giant vampire. Like, I'm going to suck your blood. Like, that's all it is. It just drains the energy and resources from the rest of the world, and then that's it. And then complains about it. And then tries to influence our politicians by going, here, come feel important by speaking at this conference. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. But again, it's our system. And you got to respect it, because our system allows people like that to do these things. Because if you did this in Iran, they'd be dead. Their head would be cut off. Like, Wakatella, done. If they said this in the UK, they'd be in the stockade without a trial. And if they did it in France, they'd get the guillotine. And if they did it in Spain, they'd just go missing and no one would see them ever again. right? That's just the way the rest of the world works.
No,
but interesting, you know. I mean,
the Europeans are soft, and now they're pretty outspoken in other countries in Europe, man. Like people.
No, they are. They are.
They definitely. But go ahead. I understand your big point. Your biggest point was that
they are.
You know, we have an opportunity to have freedom of speech.
We do.
And even though we disagree, they have opportunities to articulate their speech, even if they're disagreeable. I understand your point. So
look, I mean, you don't have those. Look, you don't even have free speech in a lot of European countries. You don't have free speech. You can't do what you do in America. You know, you can't even own a weapon.
It's definitely a lot.
Think about how
freedom of
fundamental
speech and the right to bear arms are very different.
Right.
But
So
anyway.
let me say this, Len. Think about how fundamentally. Think about, and we could probably wrap up with this because we're about that time. Think about. This is what scares me the most. Okay, this is what scares me the most, and this might be controversial for some people, but here's what scares me the most. By and large, the rest of the world, you are not allowed. Organized world, mostly Europe, you're not allowed to own weapons, right?
Yeah, that's definitely
like you can't. You can't, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
Do you? America is by and large the only country in the world that allows you and I to freely own weapons. If I want to, I can go buy a tank if I want to and park it in my backyard. Especially in Houston, because guess what? There's no zoning in Houston. So it's by the way, what makes Houston real estate so attractive, Len? There's no zoning. You can have a Quickie Mart right across the street from a single family residence. It's wild.
I don't think that's smart, but you know.
I don't think it is either, but it's just wild here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But doesn't that fundamentally scare you? Because
the
here's the
idea
thing.
of not being able to own a gun.
Yeah, doesn't that scare you? That
scares
me because
it's a double-edged sword. But why does it scare you? Why does it scare you?
It scares me because it allows a government to own weapons and its people not to.
Yeah, man. But I mean, we saw how that played out in Minnesota the other day. I mean, you know, a guy is out protesting. He has a gun, and they use that as a justification to kill him in broad daylight, and he wasn't brandishing it. And so, you know, like you get to, you can't argue both ways, man. Like, and I'm not talking about you, but if we have the right to bear arms, don't use that as a justification for killing them.
Right, but
so
I'm not familiar with.
I agree with your point generally.
I'm not familiar with that situation.
Go ahead, Chris.
It just seems I'm not familiar with that situation in Minnesota. Is that's
bro?
Talking about the
yes,
protest?
We talked about it.
Are you talking about that guy?
The Preddy guy.
Preddy?
He was out.
Oh, give me a break on that, Len. Preddy, come on. He assaulted an officer. He got in the middle of an active apprehension. What I'm talking about right now, Len,
Chris,
Len, I don't want to talk about Preddy. No. What I'm saying is Len, is at a high level. Doesn't that scare you at the fact that could be taken away from you? That your government, the people who make the rules on your behalf, are allowed to own weapons, but you're not? That doesn't scare you at all? That doesn't, you don't think because here's the thing, they're still human beings, which means now you have no way to defend yourself against your government. Because here's the thing, do you think for a second that the riots and I remember I called a client last week. I got to check on her, by the way. Her son was stuck in Puerto Vallarta for 3 days because of because the Mexican crazy at the Hilton, right? Because do you think the cartels would have such a stronghold on Mexico if the Mexican citizens were allowed to bear arms? Hell no! There would be none of that crap going on in Mexico. Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying, that's the problem.
An argument.
No, but how? Because here's the problem. But here's the problem. We have cartels in America. They're called gangs. We have them here. They own guns too. The problem is that constituents here own guns. So the gangs here can take over certain areas, and they do. Hey, don't go over there. That's gang territory, right? But by and large, it doesn't mean that they're doing what. You don't see gangs doing in America what the cartels do in Mexico.
No, for sure.
And the reason, do you think the Ayatollah would have been able to destroy that country and enslave the Iranian people for 30 plus years if they had the right to bear arms there? Hell no. Hell no.
Okay.
Hell no.
All right. So I'm going to respond. Okay. So first of all, I want you to know that I agree with you that citizens of any country should have a right to bear arms. I believe that is fundamental. And I believe that it is, because one thing that I would say that the framers did that was brilliant is creating that system of checks and balances, because everybody again operates out of self-interest. And so when you have that and you have three different systems where one provides a check on the other, there isn't any ability for one to go out of check, assuming all of those aspects of the system are operating properly. Okay, back to the whole gun thing. I agree with you that every country should be able to give its citizens the privilege to bear arms. Now, the problem is that there should be controls and guardrails with regard to when and how people and to what degree people should have the opportunity to bear arms. For example, if somebody has a history of abuse, if somebody has a history of mental illness, if somebody has misused their guns, they should be able to take those away lickety split, because it's a privilege. It should be a privilege and not a right. And I think also,
I disagree with that. I think that's propaganda.
That's a point. That's a point. You can make that argument. But when people that should not have guns have them, that's all I'm saying. Like, I think that there needs to be a stronger system that allows the right people to bear arms. Like, if I want to have a gun to stop the bad guys from coming into my house, I have the right to do that. I have the right to defend myself, whether it's, a thug around the corner or the government trying to come into my house to do an indiscriminate check. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I just think that in a country that does not have the right type of gun restrictions, that's why you have situations where these mass shootings happen. And somebody just said, the argument, well, it just happened in Canada, last week or 2 weeks ago. So, but that's such an isolated incident. You can't argue that gun violence is so much more rampant among American citizens. I'm not talking about like civil wars and coups and stuff like that. I'm not talking about cartels and things like that. But I'm just talking about, a random person goes and shoots up a school. It just happened just a couple of days ago, and it happens over and over and over again. And so I agree with you that we should have the privilege to bear arms, but I think that it should be earned, and we need to show consistent proof that we can handle the responsibility of owning a firearm.
I don't think it's a privilege. I think it's a right. And I think when you say it's a right, I think that's that dangerously leans on the category of propaganda when we say it's a privilege to bear arms. I think it's
that's a good argument. I'll give you that.
I am 100% in agreement with you on restrictions, and I'll go even further to say I think restrictions should be harder, and I think there should be like waiting periods and all of those things. And there definitely should be. Hey, Len, it's show here, like there's databases for everything. I just did new auto insurance a couple days ago, right? And I didn't know this, but it runs like Len, these LexisNexis things. I had no idea how many different things it runs and what Clue is and all these different things, right? Like it said, oh, we have to raise your premium by $10 because you had a comprehensive claim in 2024 for more than $1,000. It was for somebody stole my gas cap off the car, like the door, the window that covers it and it locks, and they ripped the whole thing off because it was locked. But either way, I just think that when you look at that, when you look at the different background checks and the waiting periods, it should go, oh, Len, I see here that you bought 2 shotguns last month. Look, you got to wait until you can buy a rifle, whatever the case may be, right? There should be we should spend
Especially
resources
with
on
AI.
that.
There's so much
All that
access
stuff,
to
like
quick data.
like for example, like I can understand you're an enthusiast and all that stuff, but yeah, there needs to be background checks and underwrite these people. Like maybe gun owners need to go for every 2 years a mental health check. I don't know, because that seems to be the biggest issue. I mean, mental health in this country, Len, especially right now, is absolutely terrifying. And again, we're too busy building high-speed rail that doesn't exist rather than investing in statewide mental health checks. By the way, the state of California could lead the country and have a complete, free, utopian healthcare system with the amount of fraud and abuse. I'll take the word fraud out of it, so I'm not propaganding anybody right now. But with the inefficiency of California's budgeting, they could have a complete 100% universal healthcare system for everybody in the country. Because with just $20 billion alone, you could do universal healthcare for every minor under 18 in America. So that's sad to me right there, right? So I agree with you 100%, Len. Background checks, security checks, restrictions, they need to be there. You do, but you absolutely have a right to protect your own right to survive.
I think we're saying the same thing, but I agree that. But I just don't. What you said is a privilege, and you're saying what you said is a right. I can see to that.
And for me, it just terrifies me again. And I guess that just goes back to and I guess we can wrap up here. We'll go over everything that we wanted to go over next week and maybe include some stuff that happens between then. But this just goes back into my bucket or my main global argument of whose morality do we want to lead or influence or govern the world, however you want to look at it. And again, the right to bear arms, I think, is a global morality that everyone ought to have the ability to protect themselves with the means that other people use, because it's an equalizer. I can't protect myself if my government has a gun, but if I have a gun, I have an equalizer. You get what I mean? And I can go and take training classes too. I can go and get body armor. I can go and take jujitsu. I can go and take judo. I can do basic training on my own and have all those things too, so that I'm prepared as best as I possibly can to go toe to toe if I need to. Because at the end of the day, that's a real possibility. Not saying it is, but you ought to have the ability to protect yourself in that regards. And I think where you see a lot of trouble come is in countries that don't have those abilities. South American countries and, obviously Middle Eastern countries and a lot of other countries. But maybe we'll talk one day why South American countries, because they get that inherent corruption from Spain, from back in the old days. But that's a different topic for a different time, Len. Don't talk about that right now.
You throw zingers all at the end, man.
No!
I'm going to leave you with this.
Hey, outside of that though, Len, I do pray for everyone, whether they're a believer in Christ or not. I pray for peace, and I want this to end as soon as possible, because
100%.
War's ugly. No one does there's going to be casualties. There's going to be collateral damage.
Innocent
and it's never easy. It is. Even in America, you're going to see it. There's going to be collateral damage. So my prayer is that this ends amicably for everybody and that peace is restored in a good way. And we move forward. So with that being said, Len, it's always an honor to be with you, sir.
Likewise, brother. Till next week. We'll
see you in the next one.
All right, have a good one.
Absolutely. And if you like this content, like and subscribe and follow and comment, because we'd love to get engaged with you guys. Take care, everybody.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.